Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined by the new world's strongest man, the one and only Mitch Hooper. How's things, buddy?
Mental.
What have you been doing for 2 days since you won the world's strongest man?
Having a lot of interviews, a lot of radio and news and magazines. I went and trained today, and otherwise just packing up T-shirts that people have ordered from the new merch.
Good stuff. We sold some merch this week.
Yeah, heaps. In fact, like we're pretty much already completely sold out. We'll have to order some straight away. We're hoping to have some inventory.
Awesome. I'm glad I got some early. So firstly, how are you feeling? Obviously, a few days after winning Worlds, you trained today, so you can't be feeling too bad.
No, body feels okay. Body feels fine. Brain feels very tired with the number of conversations with strangers. But it's impossible to believe. I'm like, if I just all of a sudden woke up out of this whole weird experience, I would not be that surprised.
Well, we chatted for the first time during Worlds last year. I messaged you, and you're at World's Strongest Man, so I wasn't sure what you'd be up to, but you had a rest day, and you being the person that you are, you were bored, and you said yes, and you jumped on, and we had a good chat. And that was the first proper conversation we had together. You did amazingly well in your first ever World's Strongest Man. You ended up getting to the final, finishing 8th. And then just after World's Strongest Man, you contacted me, and we've been working together ever since, which has been a pleasure for me to work with you and become, good friends and get time to spend time with you, spend time with your family, get to know you better. And what I want to do today on the channel is, obviously we'll talk about Worlds, but show people the real Mitch Hooper, because I think a lot of people don't understand you. They're like, is this guy from Mars or something? How does he just jump into strongman and get so damn good so fast? And I think understanding your background would help. You haven't just jumped off the sofa and won World's Strongest Man.
Yeah, it's funny. Someone said to me, I hope people don't get too inspired by you, in that people don't think that in 2-3 years that they could go win World's Strongest Man. Yeah, there's a huge background of training that's gone into it. That's just, I haven't called strength sports really.
Yeah. Well, when did you first get into sports of any kind?
4 years old, started ice hockey. Then I played ice hockey from when I was 4 to 13. And all in that time, I played at a rep level, baseball, basketball, football, volleyball. Then when I got into high school, I had the choice to either go to a school with Tiger Woods' coach down in Florida or to my local high school, and I didn't really want to move away from home at that stage. And then played American football up into college. Then I did my bodybuilding, my marathon running, then my powerlifting, then my strongman. Now, during that entire time, though, I think it's important to realize that I always loved to lift heavy. Even when I was bodybuilding, even when I was running, I was lifting heavy the whole time. And I was the type of kid when I was 16, 17, I would literally go to the gym 5 days a week, and it'd be like upper, lower, upper, lower, upper, lower. And I would go like, most of the guys would be doing high rep bodybuilding stuff. And I would go like, okay, bench press, what's my 1 rep max on Monday, Wednesday, Friday? And that sort of attitude always carried along. I never liked high rep training. So I would run, but I would still do heavy weights, although I wasn't obviously as strong as I am at that time.
Yeah, you're a bit stronger now, I guess.
A touch.
Do you think having that, and we've spoken about this privately, but I think it's good to address to people. Do you think having that athletic background and the ability to do so many sports has helped you coming into strongman?
Yeah, I think it just forms a foundation for so much. I think physically and psychologically. Like physically, the reason I don't get shin splints is because of my running background and strengthening the muscles down there that we really don't otherwise in strongman. Say like my coordination would come a lot from my golf, and my leg power comes a lot from my hockey. And yeah, I mean, I was training for strongman for maybe 20 years before I actually started Strongman. So yeah, there's a huge amount physically, but then psychologically, being able to control your intensity and your focus is hugely relevant in a sport like golf. And if you can't do that, you'll be a disaster. Being able to put something out of your mind completely is a huge element of marathon running. So I think that sort of background helps me a lot, where I can go into the tent and I have vast experience in just completely taking my mind off something, and I can pretend as though there's no competition for hours on end. I think probably because of that background.
Yeah, it's clear to see when you're competing that you've got vast amounts of competitive experience. Maybe not lots of experience in strongman specifically, but you are a natural competitor. I mean, we've messed around playing, Jenga and bowling and whatever, doing different things. And you are a highly competitive person, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, and even outside of sport, I mean, there's really endless examples of trying to race someone off the start line at a stoplight, and just random stupid things like challenging Ashley to like, how far is this away, and we'll both guess how far it is away, and I want to be closer. So yeah, I mean, I am quite competitive, although I don't think I compare myself to other people all that much. Although I suppose that's a necessity for competition.
I got a question for you. When you're younger and you're playing board games or whatever with family at home, were your family competitive?
No,
Really?
it was really a real dominant situation. But it's funny because I've always been competitive, but I've never been the one to care. Like if I was a young child and I lost a board game, I wouldn't be the one to throw a fit. When we were losing the playoffs in football, some guys would be crying, and I'm sort of just okay. So I'm intensely competitive in the moment, but I've never put all that much weight in the result.
Okay, that's interesting. The reason I ask is just from a personal experience. My dad used to cheat to beat me and my brother at games when we were younger. So it kind of made me quite aware of just watching my opponents, and it made me competitive, but obviously a little bit different for you. I just wonder if maybe when you've got your own kids, you're going to be competitive with them and, make them have to earn that victory.
That's why I want so many kids. Every kid you have, you're guaranteed to win at everything until they're at least 10. 10 years.
What if they start beating you?
Then you move on to the next youngest kid.
Yeah, that's it. Create some champions and then just have a few more so you can keep winning.
Yeah. Statistically, you'd have to have one that you could always beat at everything.
Right, let's talk about this year's Worlds, because a lot of people will be watching, and you are the new world's strongest man. Firstly, congratulations. How does it feel to be the world's strongest man? I know it's a weird question to get, but everyone wants to ask that to you when you win.
Yeah, no, it's so hard to wrap your head around. Like, it's almost like if you had a friend who was big and strong and called themselves the strongest man in the world, it's like the pinnacle of arrogant statement. You're like, obviously you're not. Like, no one is. To actually have that title of like, you are number one in the world at anything, but strongman specifically, like it's amazing. To me, I think the two titles that matter the most are the man who wins the 100-meter dash, who's the fastest man in the world, and the man who wins world's strongest man, who's the world's strongest man. It's so cool to go, like, if someone goes, oh, what do you do for the living? And you're like, I am the world's strongest man. Yeah, hard to comprehend, but very, very happy.
Which one, if you could have either, is there one that you would choose, like the strongest or fastest?
I think there. Okay, so when I was sitting with Ashley, I haven't talked about this yet, I don't think ever. Before I started Strongman at all, Ashley and we would go to the same gym sometimes, and the guys there would do powerlifting and some would do strongman. I was sort of thinking about strongman, and she asked what it was, so we popped on the Eddie Hall documentary. In that documentary, he says, any man who doesn't want to be the strongest man in the world is lying to himself. And that was before I started strongman. I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, like, I think so. So personally, strongest 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We we're natural lifters, aren't we? You're going to go that way, but they are both cool titles to have. Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Do you reckon anyone could ever have both?
Don't tempt me with a good time. No, I reckon not. And this is where some athletes, because I'll always say that I'm very lucky, and a lot of athletes, they behave as though I'm saying that to put myself down. And a lot of the older guys, they'll go, "Oh, don't say you're lucky because luck doesn't exist. It's all hard work, blah, blah, blah." But when I talk about luck, it's not lucking my way into winning World's Strongest Man, but it's lucky that you've got joints that will support heavy loads, that you've got the right muscle insertion, you got the right height, you got the right muscle fiber composition. And so all of that luck that makes me lucky in strongman would make me a very unlucky sprinter.
Sure. Yeah, I think people have to understand that genetics are a major factor to anyone excelling at anything. You and I talk about things like this a lot, but it's very easy to be a champion and just say to people, "Oh yeah, if you just work hard, you'll be a world champion." But the reality of that is tiny. It's, there's so many factors that come into it, and genetics are a huge factor of it. It's, you look at bodybuilding, you look at sprinting, you look at swimming, you look at strongman, there's going to be thousands of people out there millions of people out there, they could train exactly the same way that you do. They could spend their whole life doing it and still never even get close to the level that you've got in 5-6 years, whatever it is, time frame.
If you don't account for genetics, then it'll make you way too big-headed if you win something. That, like, how much credit can I really take? Of course, for the hard work and the training, the discipline, of course, but then there's also like only 0.0001% of people could ever get there anyway. So if you get to a really high level, not acknowledging genetics makes you have a big head. But if you stay at an intermediate level or a novice level and you don't account for genetics, then like you could be putting in a lot of hard work for something that's never going to happen, and you're going to feel really discouraged about that. And so, yeah, that's where it gets back to, like, for me, the beauty of strongman is just physically improving yourself and like just so basically going, I can objectively do more than I did yesterday. I think that's a really valuable thing for anyone to have.
And I think that's one of the reasons that you and I get on so well, is that we both have that philosophy. It's like, people think I'm lying when I say to clients, like, focus on your progress. They're like, "Oh yeah, but you train Mitch Hooper." I was like, "Yeah, I want Mitch Hooper to focus on getting better. I want someone who's a beginner to focus on getting better, and have no limits on where your top end is, but let's just focus on the next goal. Always focus on the next goal. Everyone will develop at a different pace, but if you're getting better and you're enjoying it, which you clearly are, and I want to ask you about that in a minute, because there's been a lot of talk of Mitch is going to win World's Strongest Man, and then that's it, he's off. But before we do that, let's go to World's Strongest Man this year. So starting off in the groups, you had a pretty tough group. On paper, I guess Group 1 and Group 3 on paper look pretty tasty.
And statistically, it worked out that way as well. I think my group was the hardest and Group 1 was the second hardest. Is that right?
I would say Group 1 was the hardest if you look on the statistics, because you would have had 3 guys in Group 1 be in the top 5 overall after the heat stages if everyone competed together. Right. But you had Kilishkovsky in your group, who I think most people will agree underperformed this year.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing him back at 100%.
Yeah, it's a shame, but that's sport. I've been lucky enough to compete against him at his best, or unlucky enough, and he's an amazing athlete. Just this year, he wasn't where he normally was, but I'm sure he's going to go away. He's still young enough, and as long as he wants it, we'll see him back and better. But I think people are always shocked when an athlete does badly, but they're all human. Every single one of you guys is a human, and you can have bad days, you have injuries. Sometimes it's not going to work out how you want it to. He'll have to just pick himself up and come back. But how did the group go for you? Did it go to plan? What did you think of the events? And what did you think of your opposition in the group?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm thinking how to say it properly. In my group, all 6 guys were guys who could reasonably make it through to the finals. And that makes it a very challenging situation, because you can't just account for 3 or 4 guys who have a good shot when you're competing. And when you have more guys who are capable of something, it means there's lots of guys that could get between you if you took any event easy in the heats. So yeah, I mean, top to bottom, my group was really, really solid. Like I don't even know who, because let's operate under the conspiracy that world seeds guys. I don't know who would be the 5th and 6th seed in that group. I genuinely am not sure. But I basically looked at it as Mateusz, him and I would be on paper very, very close in a lot. And I thought, so long as I could get a cushion on the deadlift, we split everything else, and that's fine. And then the challenging bit about the group was that Ivar's was likely to be in the stone off, and stones are very good for him. So you probably wouldn't want to go against him regardless. So winning the group became a little bit more important once I saw the groups. And then, first heat, I was really lucky to be with Ivars and Mateusz, and I figured that they would be the fastest. And so once I got a couple of implements on, I sort of just made sure that I was ahead of both of them. Deadlift was perfect, really. Had a couple of guys tying and lots of people taking points off each other, so I built up a decent lead there. The Conans, I won the event, but I was horrible compared to what I could be. So I went like that because that's what I was doing on my yoke. But for some reason, that is just not right. And so like very quick, like there's one picture of my hands like in here, and I was about 3/4 of a lap done, and it was down into my wrist. And then once it got into my wrist, it was sort of okay, and I was able to make it around and beat that mark. But there's certainly no element of cruising for me in the heats. There was no element of pulling back, and I had to work harder in the heats this year than last year.
Yeah. We had a chat before the last, because you won all the events in the heats up until the throw, and you could have taken your foot off the gas on the throw, but we were like, the throw is not a taxing event. It's not an event it's not an event that's got a high risk of injury. It's not an event that's going to take too much out of your body. Not like, say, a squat for reps or a super yoke, although that'd probably be a rest event for you, but like a deadlift for rep, pull, they're all very physically demanding events. A throw isn't so demanding. It kind of, it uses a lot of energy in a short burst of time because it's so explosive, but it's very easy to recover from. So we were like, go for it. And you looked on track to potentially win that one as well.
It was so good. Yeah. That my endurance in the throws, it's funny how you fatigue in that. It's like, it's so fat. There's no fighting it.
No.
But yeah, and I think what a lot of people wouldn't realize is that even now is #1 in the world, and it's not going to get old saying that. It's so hard to believe.
I'm sure you won't get bored of saying that. I can see your little smirk and your mustache as you say it.
You made me lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
Sorry. Like even as the top in the world, you don't have access to absolutely every piece of strongman equipment to ever exist, and you have to just make do as best you can. And I don't have that type of kettlebell throw setup that I could ever do. And so you also have to think, well, someday I'm gonna come to World's Strongest Man and not have to do something for the first time. And if you can have your experience or a practice run at Worlds in front of people, then might as well take the opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. So going into the final, who were you thinking is your biggest opposition, firstly, and how are you feeling?
So I'm just like the fans, and like I love this sort of strategy side and where people are going to do here, and here. So I think I threw it out, but I had a chart of all the guys where I thought they would be, sort of the high end, the low end. I took the average, and I had Brian to win, and I told you that. I had Brian to win. I had myself second, maybe a half a point behind, and then I had a point behind me, Tom and Alexi.
Yeah.
So I thought with these finals events, for me, uphill battle. If I can manage to go mid-pack on the dumbbell and finish high in everything else, I'd be pretty satisfied. And I was actually less confident after day one, even though I was in the lead, than going into day one, because I was counting on fingers being a good event for me and dumbbell being a bad event. And so having a poor finish followed by your worst event is always psychologically pretty difficult.
I don't think you had a poor performance. You really can't look at the results and say you had a poor performance. I mean, we spoke before every event. We had best case scenario, good scenario, worst case scenario. And you hit best case or better on every single event.
Yeah, well, except for fingers.
No, you did what we wanted on the You flipped. The goal was to flip all the fingers. So you hit best case scenario. Worst case scenario would have been you didn't do all the fingers. And, 4 of you were very, very close. And you ended up getting the worst time of 4 guys. Where, 1 second may have made a big, big difference. But for that to be your first ever time on the fingers, not many people flip all 5 fingers first time they touch them. So I personally don't think you put a foot wrong. The deadlift was unbelievable.
Yeah.
You walked away knowing that you had more in the tank if needed.
Yeah, but that was set up by the shield carry crab walk.
That was probably my favorite event. Just from a fan's point of view, a coach's point of view as well, but from a fan's point of view, you have to sit there and respect the determination. You and Alexei Novikov both pushed to the absolute limit. And just the fan in me sort of was like, yes, that's what we want to see at World's Strongest Man. We want to see guys that want it. I hate seeing guys just kind of pick it up, put it down and walk off on any event. You're at World's Strongest Man. Let's fight to the damn limit. And it just shows that people might say you don't care sometimes because of some of the things that you've said. We after the Arnolds, you got a lot of shit for what you said. I know what you meant, but some people take it the wrong way. But you watch that performance and you just think that guy wants it. It's you see it physically.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose people have been listening long enough to listen to my whole statement now. Dangerous territory. If you just say someone didn't want it, then it implies that they didn't train for it, and it implies that they never showed that they wanted it. But if you look at, say, okay, go back to the Arnold and look at my reaction after the log and after the deadlift, and after every event, why would I be so excited? And at Worlds, I was actually allowed myself to get much more excited, and many times on the dumbbell. And that video of Ash and I after stones, you should see that stuff and recognize the sacrifices that go in to make people so happy when it goes right. So I certainly care about it in terms of performing. I suppose the more general feeling is I can't base my entire life, self-worth, and highest level of importance on being a great strongman, because you could get injured and one day you'll have to retire. And if you always identified as this big, strong guy, and all I want to do is win World's Strongest Man, if you're me right now, you'd probably start to feel pretty empty.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We both kind of put family values very, very high, and it's amazing being able to win major titles and stuff like that. But it's even better to go home and have people that support you no matter what you do. Be proud of you when you win, be proud of you when you lose, be there to support you when you win or when you lose. And that's a very special feeling. And it's hard, when you're young, you don't realize that. Because I didn't when I was younger. There was a time that was all I cared about was World's Strongest Man. But as you get older, you have kids, you have a family, you start realizing, okay, this isn't the most important thing. Doesn't mean I don't want to win. Doesn't mean I don't want to put 100% into it. You just have other things that distract you. And some people just don't realize that and maybe they will in a year or two when their lives change. But anyway, you went into the stones in a great position. I was still nervous for you going into those stones. I'm not gonna lie.
You skipped over all the other final events there, because we cannot skip over talking about the dumbbell.
No,
we went from deadlift to fingers to dumbbell. And so actually going into day 2, I had 25 points. I was half a point ahead of Alexei, 1 point ahead of Tom, and 2.5 ahead of Trey. And if you look at that as a 3-event competition between the 3 of us, with my bust pull last year being 8th out of 10, my heavy dumbbell at RAW being 8th out of 10, and my stone run being 9 out of 10 last year, among those 4 guys, you have to realize the air of self-doubt when those are your results that you have to rely on. And over the course of the day, if you lose, say, 7 or 8 points, you've probably lost the competition, if not fallen off the podium. So going into the dumbbell, you know, and the good thing is, like, so helpful having Fabian with me, because I'm not sure my family would fully understand what was happening if it weren't for Fabian going like, okay, at the gym, this is about a 50-50. Okay, this would be an all-time PB. So,
well, we spoke before, we were hoping for 132 and a half kilos.
Yeah.
That was the big goal. That was the PB. So, we knew that was a possibility, but it wasn't a guarantee.
Yes. And actually, the 125 was not a guarantee.
Yeah.
It was getting pretty.
It was when everyone was, other than Yako, hit the 125.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, we are in a, this competition, the standard is crazy. I wasn't sure where it was going to go after that. And then you hit the 132 and a half.
Do you know, it's funny. I rarely do I feel this way, but say last year when we did the rising bar with the Flintstone, I got really anxious as the weight went up. This time, when we're going through and people were hitting it, I was gaining so much energy from all the other guys, from like all the collective performance. But yeah, everyone hit the 125, which was a bit like, see, in Strongman, we don't vote against each other, right? You never go to an individual. I hope you mess this up.
Yeah.
But it would also be nice to just know that you have a couple extra points going in. So you don't really think like as an individual, but you're like, man, it would have been good if a couple of guys missed that. Yeah. Because then you could be in this colossal chunk of a tie down at the bottom and lose 6-7 points because of it.
I was super impressed with Tom Stoltman on the dumbbell, because that was the event I thought maybe he was going to drop points on. And he messed up early on, composed himself, hit it, and then he got better as the weights got heavier.
Yeah, the 115, when I watched it, I said that's what it looks like when I try to do it with my wrong arm. Like almost like he didn't know where it was in space the first time.
Yeah.
But man, oh man, how in the world Tom and Alexi tied on dumbbell?
Yeah.
Who would have thought that? But it's sort of it's a great testament to what good athletes we have at this stage. That level that we hit on that dumbbell is absolutely mental. Like,
especially that deep into the competition as well.
Yeah. Like I hit a PB, Evan hit a PB, Pavlo Kordiaka hit a PB, Trey hit a PB, Tom hit a PB. You're like
Luke,
more than half the field.
Yeah. It was actually the worst performer on the dumbbell was Novikov in terms of expectations and what he's done.
That shocked the hell out of me.
Yeah, but that's competition, as we say.
What did you think about the down calls?
I thought there was a few soft calls.
Soft elbow or soft body?
Soft elbow and body. When you look at a number of lifts, there was extremely quick down calls, shall we say. And I wasn't there. So I'm watching on a grainy screen. So I can't make the decision. I always say, you as an athlete, you go on what the referee says. I will always stand by that. As an athlete, if the referee says down, you put it down. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
But I do feel, and maybe now's not the time to talk about it, but I do feel we need some kind of rule system that is adhered to consistently in Strongman.
Be tough, wouldn't it? It would be very anti-Strongman, which is like well-calibrated equipment.
It doesn't need to be calibrated equipment, but we need some kind of form of, okay, on an overhead event, things have to be held for a second or whatever it might be. Just because we've seen so many calls, we can go back to the Rogue Invitational. And, I don't think people should isolate certain athletes, because if you kind of look over the whole year or whatever it might be, it kind of evens out when you look at, who gets good calls, who gets bad calls. But I do think it's something that needs to be addressed, because Strongman now is growing and there's more eyes on Strongman and there's more money in Strongman. So it is important that we get these calls as right as possible. Do you not feel?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think the beauty in Strongman is how it's a little bit here and there. Like it's not like other sports where it's official committees and like the root of what we do is go out into a field and pick up a rock. We're not really how heavy is the rock type of people. We're not really how did you move the rock from here to here. We're more just get it done. And I think what we should go for is consistency. And if you're in a competition getting the same calls, okay, great. Same thing in basketball, right? There's basketball refs who will call very strict fouls, and there are basketball refs who will let you play a lot more. And if you don't adapt to how the referee is calling something, then you're not doing your job as an athlete. And
that comes back to me saying you go on what the referee says as an athlete.
Yeah, and so for example, like I know my body was very much over here, but internally you're going like, okay, I need that elbow locked out as hard as I can, and I need to balance that. And then as that balances, then you're going to start coming up. And you don't know at the time where your body is and how exactly you're tilted. And so you get it. Okay, cool.
Your dumbbell, you kind of held locked out for a couple of seconds. Some people were like up and it can drop straight behind them. Yeah. And I wasn't in a rules meeting to know what the rules were. So was there any rules? What were the rules? Like that's all. You know, so we're as fans, and this is, you know, I'm just telling you my experience watching as a fan more than anything. I don't know what I'm looking for. Whereas if we know, okay, an athlete has to have the elbow locked out, the dumbbell needs to be stable over the head for a 1 second count or whatever, then we've got something that we're looking for. But at the moment, we don't know what we're looking for. So that's why the internet goes crazy, and it's like, oh, that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. You know, that shouldn't have been a lift, whatever. I think that's where we need some kind of clarity is, okay, this is what we're looking for. Boom, do it.
Yeah, I mean, as a sport, I agree, but as a strongman philosophy, I'm like, let's just keep it a bit rogue. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it being a bit rogue.
Like I am as well, in terms of from an athlete's point of view. I'll do what I have to do to the referee's commands.
Yes.
I've been given reps before that personally I don't think are good reps. But if the referee's going to give it to me, I'm going to say thank you very much. You know, and it's gone both ways. I've been in comps where I've been given good lifts and I've probably not been given much better lifts. It's that consistency is what's important.
Yeah, and I think it very much was consistent.
I think so. I do agree that it was.
Yeah. And we had our challenge system. But what I was going to say about the rules, about the rules meeting, what was said at the rules meeting, I don't remember any rules meeting. We did our thing at the familiarization and like talked about generally the rules and how it's going to work. But I think I was the only one who actually took rules from one of the producers. And I read the rules and then gave them over to someone else, and then they needed to take them back to production. So we didn't really have rules printed out for us for it to say exactly what the deal was.
Okay. Well, we won't talk about rules for too long because you know that again is for another day. How did you feel going into the stones? Because I was still nervous for you.
Yeah.
I mean, I believed you could do it, but I was still nervous because there's some good stone lifters.
Well, I was so I don't train with tacky ever, right? And that's probably the one bit that's like, okay, you're taking a pretty big risk here. So I pulled many people together. Chad was helping me out a bit. Dirks was helping me out a bit. I asked Martins to help me out in choosing the tacky and application of the tacky. So Martins and I were standing together, and he was sort of helping me out with making sure that it was applied correctly. And that was my biggest concern. I know that I can do all those stones, no problem. I really didn't feel all that drained or fatigued at that stage. But there's also a very difficult element to you're doing stones across from Tom Stoltman. And okay, you have your cushion. That's cute. That's fine. But you're going to watch him blitz past you and just pretend it's not happening, which very easy when you have someone who's great beside you to sort of slip up and take unnecessary risks and whatnot. So I knew that there was plenty of things that could go wrong. It's sort of like it's like a kettlebell toss to me. You could be a better kettlebell tosser, but accidentally just launch one straight up, and then you lose. So I was certainly, it was not a guarantee. People who were trying to congratulate me and excited, and you're going to win worlds and you're going to be the world's strongest. I didn't want to hear a bar of it.
No, it's the last thing you want to hear at that point, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's actually very scary. I think it's the opposite to how people would think it is, where if you're performing poorly, you get more anxious during the comp. But if you're performing poorly and you come up to your last stone run, it's not worth that. It's not that big of a difference to come 8th or 6th. Like I found it last year pretty hard to keep my heart in it when I was already well out of winning.
Yeah.
So I was definitely anxious, definitely nervous, and being anxious and nervous on stones when you're about to do a stone lift against Tom is crap. So I was just trying to keep the stone in front of my eyes, so I didn't know anything happening with Tom.
Don't look at him. Focus on one stone at a time.
Yeah. But got the tachyon, all good. Then the first stone, I grabbed it, and it was fairly slippery. The second stone, I grabbed it, and it almost like full slid out of my hands. And thankfully, my team's warned me. He goes, "This could happen. Don't worry." That took off tacky. Then I was pretty good from the third stone on, and it's sort of what you said before the comp started. It might have been in my my prediction video by you. That like if you're in a position where you have to do a good run of stones, you can always do a good run of stones. And they just felt light. It was like a mom lifting the car off of her baby. It's like there's no choice here but to get this from A to B. And there was actually a really sweet moment because I was lifting the last Atlas stone and I had my hand on one of the rings. And I thought at this stage, I knew that Tom had just finished, so I was pretty safe. And I knew that if I just did the 5 stones that I would win. And I had my finger on the ring, so I was readjusting my finger. And as I did that, I sort of looked over to the right when Tom finished, and Ash and my family were waiting right there. So I had the stone like full lapped, had a quick look and saw Ash and my family before I extended it, which is like real Disney moment. But up until I extended that 5th stone and I hit it on the edge of the platform and had to push it, until I actually rolled that up and on, confidence it's not what people would think it was.
We've seen so many people mess up at the last stage before, so there's always pressure. And it's why when we were speaking before, and I was like, just focus on one stone at a time, don't worry about anyone else, you know what you're capable of. But you've still got to go out there and execute, and there's pressure. But you did amazingly well. Me and Liz and your family and everyone and all the fans, they're so proud of you, especially people that know you well, because we all know you are without question a workaholic. You are. And you're very different to a lot of people, very different to a lot of strongmen. A lot of strongmen will say that it's life consuming. It's all they think about every day is strongman and training. You train and then you're kind of focused on many other things, and you have things that distract you from strongman, but it works. And it shows that you can do other things, and you can kind of, have a job or your own business and still have time to do these type of things. You've created a work process that allows you to still focus very hard on strongman. But you'd probably be bored as hell if you were just doing strongman and nothing else.
Yeah, and I hope people can get a little bit of that inspiration from me, that particularly people who are trying to break through to the pro level. And getting back to the conversation about genetics, like you can push yourself to your genetic limit, but we have to accept that they all exist. And you don't have to tie up your entire life trying to become a pro strongman or whatever your strongman goals are, strength goals, health goals. It can be pretty reasonable. And I would spend 15 hours a week at the gym, more time than most people would have to, for sure, for their goals. But there's no need, even to get to number 1 in the world, to go to the gym for 3, 4, 5 hours a day.
Yeah, definitely. Well, firstly, congratulations on winning World's Strongest Man. We're all super proud. Some of our members have asked some questions, and I thought I'll ask these just in case. There was a few things I was going to ask, but I think they might be in the questions anyway. So we'll fire some quick questions at you and see what Mitch Hoop has to say.
Right.
Firstly, When would Mitch actually believe he would be world's strongest man? Do you think did you believe that you'd win it this soon?
No. So I posted actually. Fabian took a video, one of our first videos together. My mom had brought home like a little
atlas. I
statue.
saw it on your
It
video.
looked like the world's strongest man. And in the video, I said, she said it'd be cool to have a real one of these or something along those lines. And I said, it would be cool. I might have one color of those one day. And yeah, so I posted that about a week ago because it's yeah, I'm a very analytical person, and I'm not delusional in the sense that like I would never say that I could win World's Strongest Man if I couldn't. I would never say I'd never say I could win a comp if I couldn't win the comp. And at that stage, there'd be such little evidence to say I was going to win a Giants live show, never mind a World's Strongest Man, that until the evidence is there, I don't blindly believe that things are possible.
Yeah. Okay. I just want you to know I didn't write these questions down. What led you to choose me as a coach over others?
And rate me on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of how handsome I am.
Yeah, you can do that. I don't mind.
Well, I coached myself up through the first World's Strongest Man. And then at World's Strongest Man, Dan Hipkiss had helped me out a little bit. He was really nice and helped me with Tacky then and advice on a few things. So I reached out to him and asked if he would take people on. And he said that he couldn't with me because there's a conflict of interest. And he gave me a couple of other recommendations, one of which was you. And I think when I have my background, and it's a very theoretical base, not necessarily strongman, but strong basis in the human body, then my deficits are going to lie largely in experience in the events and exactly what's going to happen when and how to operate as a top level strongman. So for me, it was a really nice marriage between one of the most experienced people and myself, because in a lot of ways we get to the same conclusions in terms of training philosophy. I've just learned it at one place and you've learned it through experience. So yeah, I mean, it's personality based as well. I think when you're picking a coach, it has to be someone who understands you. And one thing that I commend you for a lot in private is that I am now the world's strongest man, but I do things in my life that would inhibit me from becoming the world's strongest man, like my work schedule, like taking on projects that I don't have to and doing extra things and whatnot. But never have you said to me, like, maybe consider not doing that because we got World's Strongest Man coming up, or could you pull back your work, or nothing like that. So you sort of accept that I am who I am and work with me and understand that there's a larger picture. And I think the interpersonal skills as a coach is really useful. And one of the reasons that people like your channel so much, I think, is that they all feel like they know you because you're quite genuine. And it is much the same in person. But I think all of those factors combined led it to be a pretty easy conversation.
Thank you very much. And yeah, we kind of work together. It's quite interesting coaching Mitch because he's an extremely knowledgeable coach himself. But there are times I've said to you, don't do what you're going to do, and you've listened, and it's paid off. In a couple of competitions, there's been certain things where you've wanted to try and maybe try something, or you've been scared to try something, but you've kind of gone with me, and you trusted my experience in those situations, and it's worked. And it's hard when you're a talented athlete to put that trust into someone, but you have done, and it's made it easy to work together, because some people will always question things, and you never have. We've always had conversations, and if we're not happy with something, we'll change something. But there's been certain situations where you've just trusted me, and it's paid off. So it's nice to see.
After winning the last 5 of 9 shows and 8 podiums,
9 podiums, I think, is it?
9 now.
I think we've done 9 comps together, and you've been on the podium in every single one.
Yeah, well, if you're on the podium every single comp, it gets pretty easy to believe whatever's told to you anyway. But there's still the element of, like, what was it? It was before the Arnold. You wanted me to deadlift 340, and I said I've changed something up in my stance. I want to go to 380 or 390 or something. You still allow the flexibility for me to jump in and say I need to do this. And I think the good thing is I inherently understand the injury risk of anything I'm doing, and I would never suggest to do something that would cause injury. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. When a coach tells you no, you can't test your 1 rep max. A lot of times it's not because I don't think you could do it, but it's because it's just stupid to go from
exactly that. And as a coach, you have to understand your athletes, and as an athlete, you have to understand your body. And you know, I had Andrea down training with me before the Arnolds, and we pulled back on what she was supposed to be doing because she was very fatigued from a number of other things she had going on. But she trusted me because she was grumpy as hell. You know what Andrea's like. You know, she was like, "Oh, I want to pull it. I need the confidence." I was like, "Don't." But she trusted me, and she went on and, you know, made the deadlift look amazing at the Arnolds. And, you know, I know that you won't do something stupid. It's an understanding of your body. And, you know, if you do have a coach that's online, they need to be communicating with you. I mean, we talk regularly, but I do try and talk to most of my clients as regularly as possible. And some will message me during a session and we'll be like, okay, it's not looking so good today. We'll pull back. Or it might be, you're looking great. We keep pushing harder. So you need to have a little bit of flexibility. It can't be just this is the way. But if a coach says, you know, we don't want you going for a PB today, don't be going for a PB, because there's a reason, because they're going to, you're looking to get your best at a certain time. And we wanted you to be your best for Worlds, not even for the Arnolds.
Yeah. And I think we proved that pretty well.
We've done well with it. And it kind of comes to our next question, because, you know, we're going to allow you to kind of like back off a little bit for a few months. But what is your next big goals in Strongman?
Well, it's got to be the Grand Slam, the new Grand Slam. If I could go in and
consider that to be
the Shaw and the Rogue Invitational, if I could go in and win both those, that would be. I think if I came in and I won both of those and I wasn't off the podium all year, I think that's Thor 2018 conversation, and that's like.
If you do that, you'll be the first person to ever do it. So it's
the bit that I can't believe that's most shocking to me about winning is being the only one, along with Thor, Z, and Brian, to win the Arnold and Worlds in the same year. Yeah. That's the company. I'm like, man, it's. I don't know if that'll
pretty good strongman to be up next to. That
I really don't feel like I'm there though. Do you know, it's going to be imposter syndrome for a long time.
You just have to win some more things then, you know. It's as simple as that. If you keep winning, then we might have to put you in that kind of category. So this is a good question, because we spoke beforehand and we kind of both agreed that this year's Worlds events weren't your best events. Yeah. But we knew you'd be not necessarily the favorite, but we knew you'd be competitive. We knew you would be a podium contender. That was our realistic goal going into this. We've got a chance of winning, but we are definitely going there to try and hit on that podium. If you could pick your perfect 6 events for World's Strongest Man, what would they be?
In a reasonable scenario where we can't just yoke every event.
I wish we could.
Yeah, I'll just use this year's as a framework. So we started with shield carry. Obviously, shield carry is a good event for me, but if you took that to something like an easier front carry where you could interlock your fingers in some way, like a Rogue Invitational type carry, if I can get my arms out of it, I'm much better. Okay, we got a say like a sandbag front carry or Husafel front carry. Then event number 2 was deadlift for reps. I would probably prefer a max deadlift. Like, I'm really comfortable on that elephant bar, so maybe a max elephant bar. Then if instead of fingers, the sort of moving event was a simple loading race. Max dumbbell, take to a yoke. Then bust pull. I'm actually very, very confident on that now. Sorry, I could leave that guy in. But going into this year, that was a big question mark.
We worked really hard on the truck pull, to be fair.
Yeah. and then Atlas stones. I got to keep them in any reasonable scenario. So yeah, I think that would be it. But the reason they were my worst events, like just think of how bad my dumbbell performance was when it got heavy.
Yeah.
And even in training, 125 was, I hit it about 60% of the time. And so there's no expectation at all of going all the way up to 140.
How did the dumbbells feel? Because they looked ridiculous. I mean, those big ones, that video of you putting the 155 up to your shoulder, that was monstrous.
Your comment on that made me laugh so much. Will you go relax?
Well, it's the rest day between World's Strongest Man, and Mitch Hooper's there trying to get this 155 dumbbell to his shoulder. I bet all the other athletes were looking at you thinking, what the hell is he doing?
There's a wide shot in my YouTube of me doing it. And as soon as I start doing it, there's like 6 or 7 people who turn around. And that was definitely the conversation. Hopefully it impressed them there.
What's this idiot new guy doing? He doesn't know what he's doing.
But that big dumbbell is insane. I think it's 16 inches. The handle is like, it has to be there.
I saw Terry Holland's hand on it, and his hand looked tiny. And I know how big Terry's hands are. It's ridiculous. Do you think anyone could press that?
Yeah, I think Novi could on a good day.
Really? Do you think you get it balanced enough?
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. Genuinely, I'm actually thinking I was not far off 145, thinking with another 2 inches on the dumbbell, maybe I should have just gone to 150 and that would have sat a little bit higher and would have locked it out. I heard, by the way, that you were wanting me to not do the 145 dumbbell.
Yeah.
Why?
Because you'd already got the 140, and personally, I didn't think either of you were going to get it. And you kind of worst case got 9 points. And I was thinking we've already overachieved on our goals for that event. I was like, just focus on the next event. And also, I've seen people hurt their shoulders on dumbbells before. So I was kind of worried that we get into some serious weight now. There's still events to go. You're going to gain 1 point. You'd already gained more points than we expected on that event.
Yeah.
So in the end, you got an extra half a point. It wouldn't have made a difference anyway because both of you failed. But I was like, okay, leave it now, because your goal was the 132, which we hit, and then you hit the 140, and then I was saying, okay, now he's just being greedy.
I wasn't far off there.
You weren't far off at all.
But that was good. I was quite excited, but even after that, just to talk about sort of psychology and confidence, after that, you still got an event that you have never done well at, and stones, which I came 9th out of 10 last year on stones, and I lost the show in Cardiff when I had a bit of a lead on a stone run. So I've lost a show on stones before, and I don't remember that. And it's, even though my stones have improved, it's still there. So I knew that I needed a good time on the bus. And
I was much more confident of you on the bus than I was on the fingers and the stones.
Really?
Just from watching the progress that you'd made on it and the conversations we had, I was confident that you were going to be good on the truck. Because I always knew from last year you were built well to do truck pulls, but you just didn't know how to pull a truck. Whereas, you've obviously clearly improved that. And even, I'll be honest, I thought the truck pull was too light in the end, but you still beat everyone by a couple of seconds. And I think on a heavier truck pull, because you were training on a very heavy truck, it would have been even better for us. But
the truck that I was training on was much, much heavier.
Yeah. So, but that happens in Strongman. You kind of don't know what the truck's going to be like until you start pulling it. So then you need to be able to adapt.
Yes.
And that's where you are good.
And that's the advantage of being able to see everyone else do it.
I think
when there was that grouping at 32 seconds, and then Tom was the lowest on 32 seconds, and he was in the lead, that's scary. Because if you're 33 seconds, you now lose your entire lead to Tom Stoltman going into stones.
Well, it happened to Novikov, didn't it? Like he was the truck pull was the big weakness for him in the end, which he won last year. Yeah. But that many athletes so close to each other, it was worrying for sure. And I remember, like, you remember what I was just telling you before the truck ball all the time. Just it was literally like all the time reminding Mitch that it's a speed event. Don't ever get into coasting mode. Keep applying power all the time, every single step that you take. And I saw you like chucking the rope and just applying as much speed and power as you could. Yeah, it was like reminding me of Mariusz Pudzianowski.
Right. I went a bit more into wild mode there. I don't think I should have done that. But at a certain stage of truck pull, when it's going fast enough, it's actually really weird to try to put force into it.
If it's that fast, you did the right thing. I've seen Mariusz do it before. I've done it myself before. When it's that fast, you can't keep up with the rope. So you are best off ditching the rope and just focusing on pumping like a sprinter, getting those arms moving and just driving hard with every time the foot hits the floor. But you did amazing on it. And then the stones were amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I finished that and immediately looked over at Daz to see his reaction. And he sort of gave an approving nod. And I was like, okay, please don't be in the 32s. And yeah, I mean, I think that could have been a big controversy if I was in the 32s as well. Whether I won or lost, or Tom won or lost, I think that would have caused a lot of controversy. I think so. I'm sort of happy that it worked out. Well, I'm very happy it worked out that way, obviously. But I'm glad there was a bit of a cushion there, and that's like the huge personal reward of strongman. When you train something really, really hard and you show your improvement, that's just such a primal, special feeling. And it happened 2 events in a row with the dumbbell and the truck.
Must have felt good.
Yeah. Well, after I heard that time, I ran over and gave my mom and Ash a big hug because I figured that was probably pretty good prognosis, and then had to quickly snap myself back into get your head back in the game.
I bet they were so nervous for you.
Yeah, my mom, she goes all like shaky and whatnot.
We love you, Mom.
I think it's funny. Like, you know how you said you have the feeling about me that I'm just going to do it? Like you said, of all your athletes, when I go out to do something, you just have a feeling it's going to get done. I think everyone in my family gets that feeling, and they don't understand the stress and variability on sometimes you don't get it done.
Yeah.
A lot many events last year.
Do you feel that pressure? Do you feel that pressure yourself?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
You're only human. You're not from Mars.
Well, I don't feel it in a negative way. Do you know, I use it as a bit of a driver, and when something goes wrong, it's like it doesn't really bother me. I don't put the weight on it. But you know how some guys will say like they use a motivator of like lifting the stone off of their wife or something. I'm not ready to not be able to do that. And so for me, I can sort of do it emotionally, but still not feel as though I'm letting people down if it doesn't happen, because that's what I always say about like the thing that's really cool is that it feels like a lot of people don't care as much about the performance as they do about you're just accomplishing something, and that's really cool. Yeah, very lucky to have a really big group of supportive people around me, and I think that's why I can take a little bit of pressure off of comps, because I know that they've been there for me when I've done a lot worse things than one World's Strongest Man.
Yeah, that's good. It's an important thing for people to listen to, because I get so many novice athletes that are putting ridiculous pressure on themselves to win shows rather than just focus on enjoying it and getting better. Yeah. Winning is amazing, and winning seems to come easy to you, but losing is not a bad thing either.
Yeah.
You learn a lot from losing, probably more so than you do from winning, to be quite honest. And, if you are someone that's out there wanting to compete, go and do it. You're never going to win anything by just sitting on the sideline. So go in there, get stuck in. You might come last in your first comp, but you will decide if you enjoy it or not. If you hate it, probably best not to do it again. If you kind of enjoy the experience and you want to get better at it, it'll motivate you, and you will try and get better, and you will get better. No one expects you to win every single time that you compete.
Yeah, and it's not even what it's about. Like you have to sort of be at World's Strongest Man. I think World's Strongest Man is probably the only show in the world where you either have won it or you have not won it. In terms of like, okay, if you say I came second or third at the Arnold, people go like, oh, that's amazing, that's really cool. And I feel like second or third at Worlds, since it's sort of like a lot of lay people don't appreciate it as much, and it's sort of a title where you have the title or you don't have the title. And so,
Yeah.
For example, when I came 8th last year, I had people like giving me their condolences. I'm like,
yeah. I remember when I came 4th, people are, oh, unlucky. I was like, the world, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Right. What's the winner shot?
Moving forward, I feel about 5% of the pressure, because now if I mess it up and anyone's disappointed, I'll go, really? You haven't won this whole experience?
Do you know what? I saw something today which I thought was really sad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen it or not. There was a local, in the Highlands, a local paper to Tom Stoltman, and they put this title up saying, oh, Tom Stoltman loses world's strongest man. I was like, what a shitty thing to do. The guys come second, first, and second in the biggest strongman show in the world. That guy has done incredible. Absolutely incredible. Yeah. And to see a title like that from what should be an area that should be supporting you, I was disgusted with it. It was sad to see. And people can be so fickle sometimes.
Yeah. Just the number of opinions that exist on things that, you know, I couldn't imagine caring about what someone else cares about. You know, I couldn't imagine caring about if you know, like now that I'm getting recognized, I can't resonate with people who like want to take a picture of me. I go, just of me. It's
not even with you. Nobody wants to. Those people don't want to be seen with you, Mitch. That's all it is. But it's all good. But yeah, I hate seeing things like that, because just to be in the world's strongest man is an incredible feat of strength, incredible feat, you know, to get to that level. And when people are so fickle in terms of their support, it's sad. I'll always criticize in terms of like an analyst or a coach, or, you know, we'll look at honest, you know, appraisal when needed, and, you know, just opinion, that's fine. But to just shit on someone like that's from your area, I found it quite offensive, to be honest. It's
yeah.
You know, you got to support your kind of your friends, your people, no matter on the good and the bad times. And Tom, you know, this could be the best thing for Tom. He might come back next year absolutely motivated to kick your butt. So
I hope
you got to train hard.
You know what? The performances across World's Strongest Man this year were incredible, like across the board. I mean, you look at how many guys flip 5 fingers with no experience on them. You look how many guys hit an all-time PB on their dumbbell. You look at some of those stone off performances, like Rauno's stone performance. Like there was a lot of incredible results from the truck pull, or from the competition in general. If you think about the truck pull, all those guys in 32 seconds. Okay, a part of that tells you that that maybe we could have spread those people out more if the truck was heavier. But I was at 30 and Matt Reg was at 36. Like it's not impossible to be in that span. And I think it's as much a testament to how competitive it is right now, as much as that the truck was the incorrect way.
We're seeing with every competition. You know, there's different athletes winning different competitions, and there's always different favorites for competitions. You know, obviously you're going to work hard and try and do the Grand Slam if you like, but there's no guarantee. You know, Trey Mitchell is an unbelievable athlete. Evan Singleton, every single person in that final is an unbelievable athlete. And there's unbelievable athletes that weren't in that final. And strongman changes comp to comp, so you can never guarantee anything.
There's probably seven guys who, if someone told me I think they're going to win, I wouldn't have been surprised at all. You go, yeah, that makes sense. And it's a special time to be a part of. Like,
really, I think that's why it's so enjoyable right now. There's not someone dominating like every single year. Like for a while, when we had like Mariusz Pudzianowski winning all the time, it almost gets boring. When Zadrunas and Brian had their rivalry, that was great. But now we're into this rivalry where 4, 5, 6 guys are winning, you know, comps, and it's a battle, and nothing's ever guaranteed. So it's all fun. Let me just whiz through these last few questions.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you get a chance to watch our live reactions?
Yeah. It's so nice going and like it's like forget that you're a strongman commentator or coach or whatever. But just seeing like someone be so happy about a result and like so tense about it and all of the emotion, like that's sort of, I think in most scenarios, the athlete is incredibly excited and everyone else finds that contagious and the people around them get very excited. And for me, it's almost turning out to be the opposite. Like everyone around me is going ballistic and like I know how happy it makes everyone else. And I know like, and so like that's as much of the celebration for me now is like I've made a whole bunch of people around me happy.
Well, we will look forward to celebrating when you come over. And we're going to be doing a seminar together as well, which will be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll
So
put that
people
out.
interested, we'll get the ball rolling with that pretty soon. But if you're interested in coming to see a seminar with myself and Mitch, it's going to be in London the day after the Strongman Classic.
We could do a world tour.
We should. Who wants the bold world tour? I'll shave this. We'll just have a mustache each, and yeah, we'll make it happen.
I call the window. I call the window side of the bed.
Another question was, what do you consider the Strongman Grand Slam? But you've already answered that. Just want to make sure I've got all these. Last question. Ooh. Who do you consider your biggest competition next year for World's Strongest Man? I guess. Yeah, that's the question. Who do you consider your biggest competition? Oh, for the whole year, not just World's Strongest Man, but which athletes do you consider as your biggest competition?
It would certainly change depending on the competition and what events we're in. But if we're just talking about the people who are generally in contention regardless, I think it's Tom, Trey, and Alexi. Martins is out for the year, so he would be in that conversation for sure. Otherwise, I think other people could definitely come up in the right comp. But in terms of consistently, like it's really special to be able to watch people like I was saying, Trey. If Trey can do something, he's going to do it on competition day. The only time he doesn't get something done is if he just can't do it. And so you know he's going to have a great performance every single time. It's really quite incredible to watch.
Yeah. I think the four of you right now it's going to be an exceptional rivalry because you're all fairly young as well.
Yeah. I mean, the big concern about me retiring, I suppose we're going to get to that one.
We should talk about that. Like, is that it? Are you World's Strongest Man? Are you done?
Colin said to me, he said in my interview afterwards, I should have he told me this before I won. I said, stop talking to me about my victory speech. He said, I want you to announce on the mic that you're retiring just to mess with everyone. But yeah, that's a really common question that I'm getting from the news stations as well, is like, do you plan on trying to defend this? Because like, yeah, I feel like I've just gotten started. Like, and I think winning makes me want to extend my timeline because I can do this sport healthy. I can do this sport with no health complications. I can do it as a regular person. And seeing Brian and Carrie and their kids made me sort of think like how cool it would be to do strongman long enough that your kid can watch you compete and know what's going on. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's all injury related, health related. But in terms of being here and enjoying myself, I'm not going anywhere. Not for the next couple of years, anyway.
So Mitch Hooper is staying around. It's bad news for everyone else. Good. I'm sure there are a lot of fans that are happy to hear that. Obviously, I certainly didn't expect you to just be vanishing. We've still got work to do and goals that I know you've got that you want to achieve in the sport. How is it kind of being the first Canadian champion? Because there's been some great Canadians before you, but have not managed to get that top spot. Do you think, like, what's the response like in Canada to you? Like, did you get much? Good. Yeah.
I mean, like when I first came over, I think it was an element of like, who is this guy? Because I had done nothing there. But the response is absolutely amazing now. And the strongman community internationally seems to be about the same. sort of the same type of people gravitate towards it, the same sort of behaviors amongst the people. But to be the first Canadian winner it's pretty remarkable and very special. And I think whilst I didn't do any of my strongman in Canada, I think if not for the reputation of Canadian strongmen, I think I would have had a very difficult time getting to World's Strongest Man in the first place, that early invite. And I mean, just benefiting from generations in the past where now a lot of my fans in Canada, they've watched it on TV from back when Hugo Girard was around. And I hope all of those guys see this as an extension of the work that they did. And I just happen to be the one lucky enough to have won.
There's a lot of good strongmen in Canada, so maybe we could see Canada as part of the nations competition.
I was saying that we got me, Max, Gabriel. We probably have 2 or 3 others.
Jeff Caron's talking about coming back as well.
Yeah, JF coming back. He'd be our coach, obviously.
Yes.
And
there's
then
some great women that compete as well.
Yeah, Sam and Melissa, 100%. Yeah, I would absolutely love that. And there's something just special being able to represent your country in some way and have people feel like they have a bit of ownership in something.
Absolutely. We'll have to talk to Giants Live about that. Be good to see more nations represented, I think, and that would be really cool.
I think I moved the needle a bit with this weekend, but I think Canada could be in there, and I think Ukraine could be in there.
Ukraine, definitely. Yeah, they've got some amazing athletes, as we know. But Mitch, I've taken up a lot of your time already. I know how busy you are. Thank you very, very much for coming on and talking to us. Look forward to getting back into training soon. I'm going to let you have a week off, do whatever the hell you want. I know you'll be back in the gym. You were in the gym today, weren't you?
Yes.
What did you train today, just out of curiosity?
A bit of bodybuilding stuff. I did bench press. There was a standing bench press, so I thought I'd try that, just see how that feels for sure.
Yeah.
Did lat pull down, dead hangs, a lot of upper body bodybuilding.
Just getting some blood flow, yeah.
Bicep thrust. Yeah, cool. Bit of blood flow, and I don't think people appreciate that your volume in and around comps is always so low. Like even for the 2 weeks into a comp, then at Worlds we're here for a week. So I was going 3 weeks with very low volumes of exercise, full stop. And I don't particularly like that because exercise it's still my reprieve. It still helps me get through the day to day. And so with everything going on today, you're like, how could I not go back to the gym and just get back to something familiar?
I got back in the gym yesterday and people are like, I can't believe you're in the gym. I'm like, why? I've just been sat talking. I'm fine. But it's always good to talk to you. We will talk soon privately, but thank you very much for coming on the channel. We may look at doing a live with Mitch at some point soon as well, when he's a little bit, not quite as crazy schedule. But make sure you guys, if you're not already, go and follow Mitch Hooper on his YouTube channel, on Instagram, and anything else that he's younger than me and uses these different platforms as well. But thank you very much, mate. Congratulations. And thank you for letting me be a small part of this victory. It's been an honor.
Of course. Well, much more to come, I reckon.
Absolutely. I'll speak to you soon, buddy. Guys, the new world's strongest man, Mitch Hooper. Take care.